The boys and I had just returned from a family trip with Rob's older brother and his wife, and he was supposed to be home about 11 o'clock Sunday evening. And the owner of the company Rob worked for called me that evening to tell me that he had been killed in a work-related accident on the MARTA railway.
It was the end of the day, and they were preparing to remove all of their equipment. And one of the things that needed to be removed was what is called a high rail truck, also known as on-track equipment, or an OTE for short. Rob was standing in front of his truck, preparing for it to be removed, when a MARTA train pulled into the medical center station.
It hit the back of the truck, pulled him up under the truck, and ran him over with the truck and the train, which was full of passengers. When the kids got up in the morning, I brought them downstairs, sat them down on the couch, and told them what had happened. They broke down and cried and so upset. I mean, they were 8 and 10 at the time, so very young. That's when, it really hit me that something has to be done about this. People should be able to go to work and not have, am I gonna die tonight, on their mind.
Federal agents are now investigating the death of a MARTA contractor who was killed on the rail line earlier this week.
Smith was a husband and father of 2 young children whose family eagerly awaits answers.
MARTA issued a statement saying that safety is the top priority and a thorough investigation is now underway.
Now, when we first filed the lawsuit, MARTA did admit that it was negligent in several different respects. And some lawyers may look at that and say, well, that's good enough. We just need to move on to damages and focus on that. But that wasn't what we decided to do. We wanted to really hone in on the negligence issue and find out how in the world could this tragedy happen? How could 3 separate employees at MARTA violate 23 separate rules and cause this man's death? So we started going back and started digging deeper and found instances going all the way back to 2000, 18 years before Rob's death, where workers had been killed while working on the tracks. One of the things that really I think was important to getting the case resolved was we took the deposition of a high-level safety officer at MARTA. And one of the things that she told us was that MARTA had received multiple reports in the year or so leading up to Rob's death about workers not following the rules while out on the tracks. In fact, she said it was so bad that MARTA had come to refer to it as the Wild Wild West. In the summer of 2020, we sent MARTA a final demand of $16 million. In response to doing that, MARTA brought in entirely new lawyers, in addition to the lawyers that they already had, who raised new defenses for the first time. They raised what are called exclusive remedy defenses under the Workers' Compensation Act and claimed that Rob was under the exclusive control of MARTA at the time of his death and therefore was a borrowed servant. And again, because of that, MARTA claimed that Rob's widow was entitled to nothing. And MARTA had raised those defenses in the hopes that our client would get scared, that it would be fearful that those defenses would result in her getting nothing and force her to take the $9 million or so that was on the table. Later in 2021, around October, November, the court informed us that it was going to deny the motions, which was a huge victory for our client because what that meant was MARTA's motion to dismiss her lawsuit was being denied outright. Our client was very courageous and stuck with us and saw it through to the end.
Darrell, he's just a kind of all over nice guy until you get in a courtroom with him. He's very intimidating. He made them look very silly.
Your Honor, I have the great privilege of standing before this court representing Michelle Smith in her lawsuit against MARTA for the death of her husband, Rob. Last week was a very tough week for Michelle and her kids. It was the 3-year anniversary of the day that Rob died. Her number one goal has been to hold MARTA accountable for the death of her husband. And every step along the way, MARTA has made excuse after excuse for why they're not 100% responsible for Rob's death.
After the court rejected MARTA's exclusive remedy defenses, they wanted to engage in settlement discussions, and we told them we had no interest in compromising, that the $16 million we'd actually demanded in 2020 was no longer on the table. And as a result of all the great facts and evidence and the case we were able to build through discovery, through the more than 30 depositions we did, MARTA ultimately paid $17 million to settle all claims related to Rob's death.
A MARTA train slammed into a truck on the tracks, the collision killing an electrician working in front of the truck. This video of the impact just released after MARTA settled a case with the worker's widow for a whopping $17 million.
I don't think there's really any justice for someone dying. I mean, you can't put really a price on somebody's life. I think Rob would want the kids to be happy, make the world a better place, help others, and just be good people.